At your age, you should know when it's time to step aside, Mom. There's no room for you here anymore. Brandon said it to me on a sunny morning, his voice as casual as if he were asking if I wanted more sugar in my coffee. No anger, no awkwardness, just as if it was a matter of fact. I stood there, my hands still wet, a dish towel slung over my shoulder. His eyes met mine, unblinking. I nodded slowly. No tears, no arguments. I just said, "All right, I'll be gone by today." I don't know how I made it upstairs. Everything was a blur, like walking through a fog. I packed my things into 2 old suitcases, all I had brought with me from the small apartment I once shared with my husband John. 3 hours later, I was pulling my suitcases to the door. The sun was blindingly bright. I didn't look back. There was no need for one last look. In my chest, there was something that wasn't quite pain, it was emptiness. The taxi I'd called arrived on time. The driver, a young man, asked if I needed help with my bags. I managed a small smile and shook my head. No one needs help carrying something they've held for too long. 3 weeks earlier, I moved into Brandon and Tessa's house in Clearwater with 2 suitcases, an old quilt, and a framed photo of John. I didn't bring much, just the essentials. The rest I gave away. At a certain age, you learn to let go of things you once thought were indispensable. When I got out of the car, Brandon was already waiting at the door. He wore a white button-down sleeves, rolled up his hair neatly cut. He smiled at me, a smile that seemed a little tired around the edges. I hugged him, feeling the warmth of his chest, just like when he was a boy. Tessa came out a moment later, her lips red, her hair in perfect curls. She hugged me too and said, "Welcome home, Mom." I liked how she used the word home, as if I had left and was now returning. The 2-story house was in a new development. Manicured lawns, perfectly spaced trees lining the sidewalks, white walls, a pale gray roof, large glass doors. Everything was modern and clean, almost to the point of being sterile. I'd seen pictures Brandon had sent. Even then, I'd felt a sense of distance. But now, standing at the gate, I told myself, this is what I'll call home. The truth is, I was the one who helped him buy this house. When the bank denied his application for an additional loan, Brandon called me. I still remember his words, "Mom, I don't want to lose this opportunity. This house is perfect enough room for me. Tessa and a baby in the future. We just need your help with the rest. I promise this will be your home too. You'll always have a place here." I didn't hesitate. I withdrew the entire $215,000 from John's life insurance policy, the money I'd been saving for my retirement. When I gave it to him, I didn't think of it as a sacrifice. I thought of it as an investment, not in real estate, but in family. On the day of the closing, Brandon wore a suit, looking mature and confident. Tessa sat beside him, her hand on her stomach. They had just started planning for a child. I signed the papers confirming my capital contribution and 50% ownership of the house on the advice of a lawyer Brandon himself had hired. "Just to be safe, Mom," he said. "We're so grateful." Tessa turned to hug me, her voice thick with emotion. "You will always have a roof over your head here. Always." I believed them. Of course I did. He was my son, and my daughter-in-law had never given me a reason to doubt her. My room was on the ground floor near the back door next to the garage. Brandon said it was so I wouldn't have to deal with the stairs. The room was small, with just a single bed, a particle board desk, and a lamp. No closet, just a few hooks on the wall. The bathroom was the guest powder room, all white tile smelling of bleach. I once had a bedroom with a window overlooking a garden with bookshelves and a vanity. Now I had a small space to rest my head. But I wasn't sad. I told myself, this is more than enough, as long as I have family around me. That evening, Tessa ordered takeout Italian pasta and a mixed salad. She said she'd cook another day. Brandon ate quickly, then went back to his office. I cleared the table and washed the dishes. No one asked me to, it just felt like what I should do. Before sleeping, I placed John's photo on the desk and whispered, "Honey, I did the right thing, didn't I?" We always lived for our son. I pulled the old quilt over me. The Florida air was warm, but I still liked having something covering my chest. It felt as if John were still somewhere nearby in every breath I took. I closed my eyes, my heart full of hope. I believed this was a new beginning, gentle, peaceful, surrounded by loved ones. I didn't know yet that the dinner table would slowly empty, and that people's hearts would too. At first, living together was smoother than I'd expected. Brandon still called me Mom, though it always sounded a bit rushed. Tessa was friendly and polite, even showing me how to use the fancy coffee machine in the kitchen one morning. Every day I would sit on the small back patio with my milky coffee and an old book, letting the Florida sun dry up my anxieties. But then things began to change subtly. It wasn't anything big, just small details so fleeting that if I hadn't been paying close attention, I would have missed them. The first time was when I asked for the Wi-Fi password. The router was right there on the shelf, its lights blinking, but my phone kept saying it couldn't connect. I walked into the living room where Tessa was working on her laptop. "Tessa, could I get the Wi-Fi password, please? I'd like to video call Betty." Tessa didn't look up. She just glanced at her watch and said, "Oh, I'll have to ask Brandon. He changed it a few days ago. I'll send it to you later." But no one mentioned the password for the rest of the afternoon, and I didn't have the courage to ask again. Another evening I napped a little too long. Perhaps the humid weather had made me more tired than usual. When I woke up, the clock read nearly 7. I went down to the kitchen to find the dining table already cleared. Brandon and Tessa were watching TV in the living room. On the kitchen counter was a plastic container with a sticky note on it, Mom. I asked quietly, "Oh, did you all eat already?" Tessa turned smiling. "You were sleeping so soundly we went ahead. Your portion is in the fridge," I nodded, forcing a smile, but for some reason, I felt an emptiness inside. Not from hunger, but from the feeling of being left behind. I ate alone under the dim yellow light with no one to talk to. Brandon went upstairs early. Tessa took her laptop to the back patio. I washed my dish and wiped down the counter as was my habit. Then I turned off the kitchen light earlier than usual. I thought I was used to silence. But I'd forgotten one thing: silence, when you live alone, is different. Silence among loved ones. It has a different smell, like the cold metal of the bathroom faucet on an early morning. One day I was trying to figure out how to turn on the closed captions on the smart TV and accidentally hit a button that turned it off completely. I panicked, fumbling with the remote, unsure what to do. Tessa was walking by. "Tessa, do you know how to turn this back on?" I called. She looked at me, then gave a faint, dry smile. "You just have to hold down the power button on the remote, Mom. It's easy, like on the old phones." I nodded, but my hands were still clumsy. Tessa took the remote, pressed a button, and walked away without another word. I sat back on the sofa trying to watch my old show, but my heart sank. There was something in her eyes. It wasn't the same as the day I moved in. I kept reassuring myself, maybe Tessa is tired. Maybe Brandon is stressed with work. They're young, they have their own lives, but I started to find it hard to breathe when I'd walk into the kitchen and no one would say hello. When the only sound at dinner was the clinking of silverware with no invitation to join. When they would look at each other, then at me, as if I'd just done something strange. One afternoon I was watering the plants on the porch when I heard Tessa's voice from inside. She was on the phone, her tone slightly annoyed. "No, I swear. It feels like living with a housewife from the 1950s. She asks about everything. The Wi-Fi, the microwave, even the damn TV remote. I'm so tired of it." I stood frozen by the hibiscus bush. The water was still pouring from the can in my hand, but I couldn't hear it anymore. Only her words echoing in my head. That night, I made spaghetti, the kind Brandon used to love as a kid. I washed each tomato, sliced the onions thinly, and simmered the sauce exactly the way John had taught me. But when I sat down at the table, I was too exhausted to eat. "I'm sorry," I said. "I think I'll eat later. I have a bit of a headache." Tessa nodded and continued eating. She didn't ask if I was okay, nor did she touch the bowl of spaghetti I'd served her. After the meal, I cleared the table alone and put the leftovers in a container. I wrote in my journal before bed, "Maybe they're just busy." I shouldn't overthink it. I promised I wouldn't be a bother. But the truth was, in the very house I had helped buy, I was starting to learn how to ask for permission to exist. I woke up early that day to the sound of whispering in the kitchen. It was still dark outside. I wasn't used to the weak Florida dawn, always a hazy gray like a dusty blanket. I was about to roll over and go back to sleep, but the faint sounds, a knife on a cutting board, water being poured, and then the voices, quiet but firm, pulled me fully awake. I gently pushed the blanket aside, slipped on my slippers, and opened my bedroom door a crack. The house was silent except for the steady whir of the ceiling fan. I walked slowly toward the hallway where a thin sliver of light from the kitchen cut through the darkness. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just stopped when I recognized Brandon's voice. It was low but not sad like it usually was. It was tense like an overtuned guitar string. If we keep being nice, she'll never leave. She thinks this is her house. We have to make her feel like she doesn't belong. Then Tessa's voice. So different from when she spoke to me. This was cold, direct, like she was discussing business. "I told you. Until she signs over her share of the ownership, I can't set up the nursery. I don't want to have a baby in this house with an old woman wandering around the living room." I stood there frozen. My fingers tightened against the wall. My face was hot, but a chill ran down my spine. It wasn't that they were planning to kick me out. It was the way they spoke about me. Like a burden, an object, a shadow getting in the way of the house I had helped create. I turned and walked slowly back to my room, so quietly I couldn't even hear my own footsteps. There was no anger in my heart, just a hollow feeling like when you open a drawer that was once full of memories and find it empty. I sat on the edge of the bed. Light from outside seeped through the crack in the blinds, and I knew in that moment I would not forget this. I opened a small pocket in my old denim jacket, the one I always kept hanging by the door, and took out a mini voice recorder. It was something John had bought once at an electronics fair. You never know when you might need to record an important note, he'd said. I'd never used it until today. I pressed the button, checked the battery, and went back out to the hallway. I stood in the same spot, placed the recorder behind a ceramic vase near the kitchen wall, where the sound carried best, and stepped back into the shadows. I waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Their voices continued talking about the house, the assets, your mom's share, the additional loan. Brandon said something about how Mom doesn't understand finances, she just needs to sign the papers and it's done. I didn't need to hear it all. I retrieved the recorder, put it back in my jacket pocket, and closed my room door without a sound. I sat on the bed, my hands still shaking, not from fear, but because something inside me had just broken. That evening, I made Southern-style fried chicken, the dish Brandon used to devour as a little boy with a runny nose, watching cartoons with me every afternoon. I bought skin-on chicken thighs, marinated them in garlic powder, paprika sea salt, and a little buttermilk overnight. I fried them in my old cast-iron skillet over low heat so the skin was perfectly crisp without drying out the inside. I even made potato salad with crunchy bits of pickle. I set the table with folded napkins and turned on the soft yellow lamp. I waited. 6:00, 6:15, 6:30. No one came down. The sound of a TV from upstairs, some sports program. The clacking of a keyboard. The hum of the washing machine. But no footsteps on the stairs. I sat down and ate alone. The chicken was delicious, but I chewed without tasting anything. The empty chair across from me reminded me of John. He always sat there tapping his fingers on the table while waiting for me to pour his tea. Now there was only the distant sound of a TV no one was watching. I washed the dishes and packed the leftovers in a container. Then I sat at the table and turned on the recorder. I listened to it from beginning to end. I didn't miss a single word. When it stopped, I realized tears had been streaming down my face. I wiped my cheeks, then I took out a piece of paper and wrote a few short lines. No one is forcing me to leave. But sometimes silence is the clearest answer. I folded the note and tucked it inside an old book on my nightstand, the one John used to read over and over of mice and men. I sat on the bed, my hands on my knees, and took a long, deep breath. For the first time in my life, I realized to survive. Sometimes you don't need to speak up, you need to remember exactly what you heard. I started packing the next morning. No one was home. Brandon was at work. Tessa had probably left for her office early as usual. I waited until the house was completely quiet before I began folding each shirt, each pair of socks. 2 old suitcases, one red, one a scuffed silver gray, were all I had brought when I moved in. Now I was stuffing my life back into them, one item at a time. There's a strange feeling you get when you pack up to leave a place you were told was home. It's like you're gathering up your own mistakes. I didn't cry. I think I'd run out of tears in the last chapter of my life. I opened the small drawer in the end table by the sofa where I kept my notebooks, pens, and a few old cards from friends in other states. Among the clutter was a stapled packet of documents, the edges of the paper already yellowing. I was about to toss it aside, but the bold print in the top left corner made me stop. Sunrise Equity Group, secured loan agreement, loan amount $95,000 or borrower. Brandon Carter, secured asset 4216 Willow Creek, Ard. Clearwater, FL. I read it twice, my heart sinking. This house, the house I had put $215,000 into the house, they promised would always be my home, had been mortgaged for another nearly $100,000. And I had never been told. No text message, not a single word asking for my input, no discussion. It was as if I was never a part of their lives. I quietly took out my phone and photographed every page of the document. Then I folded the papers, neatly placed them in a small file folder, and tucked it into the bottom of the red suitcase underneath the old wedding photo of John and me. From the nightstand drawer, I also pulled out a large envelope, the papers I had carefully saved from the day we signed for the house. Brandon had always said, "Don't worry about it. Mom, the ownership stuff is just a legal technicality." But John had once told me, always keep the originals, Evie. Not because you do or don't trust someone, but because life sometimes requires a backup copy. I flipped to the last page, to the section detailing the ownership percentages. It was clear, Evelyn Carter 50%, Brandon Carter 50%. I stared at that number for a long time. Not because I wanted to fight over it, but because I needed to remind myself I was not leaving with nothing. I called an old motel near Highway 60. I'd driven past it many times, always thinking who would choose to live there. Now I knew. I paid for a week in advance, in cash. When the clerk asked if I needed a receipt, I shook my head. No, thank you. I won't be asking for it back. I went back to the house. It was quiet, the afternoon sun casting a warm glow on the cream-colored walls. I gave the living room, which had been my temporary bedroom, a quick wipe down and wrote a small note. Don't worry about cleaning the room, I've already done it. I left nothing behind but those words, no accusations, no tears. I wanted to leave the same way I had lived, with quiet dignity and clarity. I placed the note on the end table next to the reading lamp I'd bought on sale after Thanksgiving. Then I zipped my suitcases. When I walked out the door, I carried only the 3 most valuable things in my life. My wedding photo with John, the file containing the home ownership documents, and the small USB drive with the recording of yesterday morning's conversation. I called a taxi, The young driver arrived on time and asked if I needed help with my bags. I looked at the 2 suitcases, one red, one gray, and shook my head softly. No, thank you. I'm used to it. I stepped outside into the harsh, blinding sun. I didn't turn back. There was no need to see that house one last time. It was no longer a home. Before getting into the car, I sent Brandon a text. Just one line. Thank you for telling the truth. I didn't wait for a reply. Some goodbyes don't need a slamming door, just a well-timed exit. The phone rang around 10 a.m. I was refolding clothes in the motel room. The scent of cheap air fresheners still lingered, mixed with the ghosts of strangers who had stayed here before me. I wasn't going to answer. It was an unknown number with a commercial prefix. But for some reason I picked it up. Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a young man's voice, but one clearly accustomed to reading from a script. I answered calmly, Yes, this is she. Good morning. My name is Daniel from Sunrise Equity Group. I'm calling regarding the loan in the name of Brandon Carter, secured by the property at 4216 Willow Creek Road, Clearwater. I said nothing. I just sat down on the edge of the bed, my back straight, my hands in my lap. This account is 3 payments past due. We have sent 3 warning notices to the address on file, but have received no response or payment. If nothing changes, the property will be foreclosed upon this Friday morning. I remained silent. The name of the street sent a small pang through me. Willow Creek Road. It sounded like a peaceful dream. But all dreams end. I can send you the full documentation, including the option for an expedited foreclosure. If you sign, the process will be streamlined and avoid court proceedings. Send it to me, I said. I want to see the papers. 2 hours later, a large envelope arrived by courier at the front desk. The young clerk handed it to me with both hands, his curious eyes glancing at my name on the front, but he didn't ask any questions. I nodded my thanks and carried it back to my room. Inside were 12 pages of documents, every line printed clearly. Interest rates, principal, debt payment, dates, the red stamp of Sunrise, and the final form, authorization for expedited asset seizure, co-owner consent. I read every line, missing nothing, as carefully as if I were reading my own will. A part of me was still waiting for an apologetic text, a phone call, with an explanation or just a simple admission from Brandon. But there was nothing. Complete silence. I picked up a pen. My hand trembled slightly, but my signature was steady. Evelyn Carter, short and clear. Then I folded it, put it in the new return envelope provided, sealed it, and sent it off. Not a single tear. No regrets. Just a quietness, a silence as heavy as the still air on a winter afternoon. That night I turned on the TV but muted the sound. It was an old sitcom I used to watch with John, but now it was just silent dancing images. I sat there, holding a glass of cheap red wine from the convenience store next to the motel. The wine was bitter and strong, but I didn't care. It wasn't that I needed to get drunk. It was that for once in my life I wanted to know what it felt like not to have to be the nice one. I took out my old journal, the one with the soft leather cover and tie, and wrote slowly. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to save everything. Not because I don't love, but because it's time to let things fall on their own. I paused, looking down at the page for a long moment. Then I closed the journal. I set it on the nightstand next to John's picture. He was smiling in the photo, his eyes as gentle as an April sun. I whispered, "See, honey." This time, I didn't jump in to catch them. No one heard me, and no one needed to. That night, I fell asleep early. No dreams, no waking up in the middle of the night, because for the first time, I knew I had done the right thing, not for someone else, but for myself. I don't go on Facebook often. To me, social media is a place where people build better versions of themselves to show off to the world. But that morning, a message from an old friend from church made me open the app. "Evie, have you seen your daughter-in-law's post? She's saying you made them lose their house." I clicked the link. Tessa's profile picture was still a family photo, her Brandon and their daughter Emily. They were smiling in the backyard where I had planted lavender last spring. Below the photo was a long, emotional post written in the tone of a woman betrayed by the world. We opened our hearts and our home to my mother-in-law, thinking that family was the most important thing. But we never imagined that the very person we welcomed would turn her back on us, signing foreclosure papers and putting our family at risk of losing everything. I don't know what to say except that I'm heartbroken. The post had over 300 shares and dozens of comments. "So sorry for you. How could a mother-in-law do that? Where will little Emily live now?" I sat there reading it from beginning to end. No one asked why. No one asked why I had left. In their eyes, I was just a cruel old woman who had abandoned her own family. I sighed, and for the first time since leaving that house, I opened the comment section. No anger, no accusations, just one line. $215,000, 50% ownership, one foreclosure notice. I chose silence. I hit post, no exclamation points, no hashtags. A few minutes later, someone replied, "Wait, so who actually paid for the house?" Another account, it looked like a neighbor, posted a photo of the front of the house with a large notice taped to the door, "Notice of foreclosure. Property subject to seizure." I closed my phone. I didn't need to follow the rest. It wasn't my fight anymore. Later that afternoon, around 5 o'clock, I heard a knock on my motel room door. I thought it was housekeeping coming to change the towels. But when I opened it, I saw Brandon. The evening sun was right in his eyes. He was wearing a wrinkled blue shirt, a folder clutched in his hand. He didn't look like a son looking for his mother. He looked like a bank clerk trying to finalize a transaction. "Mom, I just want to talk for a minute." I tilted my head, inviting him in, but kept my distance. "What did you bring?" He held up the folder as if it were the solution to everything. "It's a power of attorney. I was thinking if you let me temporarily represent you in this matter, things would be easier. I just need you to sign." I sat on the edge of the bed and looked him straight in the eye. "You know I've stepped back. I'm not interfering. I haven't said a word. I haven't posted anything slandering anyone. And now you want me to sign a paper giving you control over my money?" Brandon avoided my gaze. I opened the small drawer by the bed and took out the mini voice recorder John had bought me. I pressed the record button. "Repeat what you just said, word for word." Brandon froze. He wasn't stupid. He just never thought his mother would do something like this. "Are you recording me? I'm not recording anyone. I'm recording the truth." I stood up and handed the folder back to him. "Go home. I'm not signing anything, and I'm not saving anything anymore." Brandon said nothing. He took the papers, his shoulders trembling slightly. As he walked to the door, I spoke, my voice as steady as a ticking clock on the wall. "You lost your future the moment you started seeing your mother as a walking wallet." I closed the door gently. No slamming, no resentment, and I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't choose a direct confrontation. I didn't go knocking on their door or argue online. I chose to send an email, a short email with no complaints or sob stories, just attachments, photos, documents, the audio file, and a handwritten statement I'd photographed with my phone. I sent it to the Clearwater Ledger, to their special investigations desk. I didn't expect much. They might ignore it. They might not even read it, but I had done my part. I chose to speak out, not to attack anyone, but to balance a truth that was being distorted. 5 days later, the article appeared on the front page. The headline was in bold, as sharp as an old knife pulled from a memory drawer: "When kindness becomes leverage, a mother's story of being erased from her own dream." Below it was an angled shot of the house on Willow Creek Road, blurry but recognizable enough to anyone who knew them. The article didn't use real names. I had asked them to remain anonymous, and they respected that. But anyone living in Clearwater knew which family had just lost their home to foreclosure last week. The reporter had been careful. They quoted me just enough without adding any drama. They attached a copy of the home purchase agreement, the wire transfer amount, the note about 50% co-ownership. Then came the photo of the foreclosure notice and a transcript of the recorded kitchen conversation where they discussed taking back the room I was staying in. I read it from beginning to end. No tears, no shaking, just a deep breath like someone who has just finished climbing a long hill. At 3:00 that afternoon, I got a call from Linda, a friend from my old job at the city library. "Evelyn, you're not going to believe this." Her voice was strained. I sat up straighter. "What is it? I'm not sure I should say, but I think you deserve to know." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "I have a friend who used to work with Tessa. He was just fired over an internal scandal, and he's saying that little Emily isn't Brandon's daughter." I was silent. Linda continued. "Tessa was having an affair with an old college boyfriend, the same man who just got fired. It seems they were seeing each other secretly the whole time. Brandon didn't know. Or maybe he did and pretended not to." I didn't say anything for a few seconds. I could only hear the faint sound of waves outside. "Finally?" I asked. "Is your friend sure?" "Pretty much. It was an open secret at the company. There were whispers for months, and then yesterday, after the article came out, he just broke down. He said, 'Tessa ruined my life, and now she's playing the saint online.'" I sat in that small room for the rest of the afternoon holding a cup of coffee that had long gone cold, looking out at the ocean. The waves were the same. The sand stretched on. The sun set just as it did every day. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't think about texting Brandon or calling to say, "See, I knew it." There was no need. It's strange when you stop trying to control the outcome, everything falls into place on its own. The local news started resharing the article. A few people I used to know sent messages asking, "Is that you in the story?" I just replied with a gentle smiley face emoji, the kind we older folks use. Other than that, I did nothing. I wasn't the one who dropped the bomb. I just tapped the first nail into a wall that was already rotting from the inside. And now all I had to do was watch it fall. I wasn't surprised when Brandon came back. In fact, I was waiting, not out of hope, but because I knew that day would eventually come. That afternoon I was folding clothes in my room, a few old sweaters I'd just bought at a seaside flea market. The fabric was a bit coarse, but they were warm. When you get older, you start to feel the cold in your bones, especially on overcast days. 3 unhurried knocks on the door. I knew it was him. The hesitant footsteps in the hall, the tall shadow through the frosted glass. I opened the door. Brandon stood there. Dark circles under his eyes, his cheeks hollow. He looked like someone who had just run a long race with no finish line. "Mom, I'm sorry." His voice was hoarse. His hands fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. "I know I was wrong. Everything. I handled it all wrong. But you're still my mother." I didn't speak. I just stepped back silently, gesturing for him to come in. But in my heart, I kept my distance. He sat on the edge of the chair across from my bed. The faint smell of sweat and cigarettes hung in the air. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. He handed it to me. "Can you look at this? It's just paperwork to let me represent you with the bank. I promise I won't touch any of your money." I took it, not opening it right away. I placed it on the table and put on my reading glasses. The paper was thicker than usual. The words "emergency power of attorney" were slightly blurred but still clear. The text was long filled with financial jargon. At the bottom was a space for a signature right below the line. Grants full authority to manage all assets, bank accounts, and related legal properties. I looked up at him. "Brandon, what kind of person do you think I am?" He avoided my eyes and took a breath. "I just want to fix this. I don't know any other way." I folded the paper, gently but firmly. "I'm not signing it, and I'm asking you to leave." "Mom, it's not because I'm angry, it's because I see clearly you didn't come here to genuinely apologize. You came here to try for one more chance." I pressed the button to call the front desk. I asked them to help me change rooms to a higher floor with a new lock. It was time anyway. Brandon said nothing more. He stood up, still clutching the envelope, as if he feared I might change my mind at the last second. When he reached the door, he stopped. "You think this doesn't hurt me?" I didn't answer. I didn't know if his pain was real or just another act, but I knew one thing for sure: I had been hurt enough. Now it was my turn to be safe. 3 days later, I was coming back from the convenience store when I saw a woman standing in front of my room. Tessa. Her hair was in a neat bun, her eyes were puffy, and she was holding Emily. The baby was still so small, just 2 years old. In her other hand, she held a designer posh baby bag, the kind for diapers and wipes, but it looked too new, as if it had just been bought that afternoon. I slowed my pace. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I wasn't going to pretend I didn't see her. "Evelyn, I'm not here to ask for anything. I just thought you deserve to meet your grandchild. After all, she's still your blood." I set my grocery bag on a bench in the hallway. My eyes darted to the posh baby bag she was holding. There was a small gap near the zipper, and from inside a tiny lens peeked out, as small as a button. I'd seen that kind of thing before. Back at the library, kids would use them in study rooms to record their presentations. A hidden camera silent. I looked up, straight at Tessa. "Did you bring a camera here?" She flinched. She couldn't hide the flicker of a frown, though her lips were still stretched into a thin smile. "What are you talking about?" I stepped forward, snatched the bag from her, and ripped it open. The tiny camera fell out, rolling a few times on the hallway floor. Tessa bent down to pick it up, her hands visibly shaking. I wasn't angry. I didn't yell. I just felt tired. "You wanted to film the old mother-in-law rejecting her sweet, innocent grandchild to post it online?" Tessa didn't speak. She didn't need to. I pointed toward the elevator. "Leave now." She stood there for a few seconds, then turned and walked away, holding her child. As the elevator doors closed, I remained still, my hand lightly gripping the doorframe as if it were the last boundary I was holding for myself. I went back into my room and closed the door. And I told myself, I am not a supporting character in your pity-seeking script. I never thought I'd set foot in a courthouse again, especially at my age. But one Monday morning, after reviewing the footage from the hidden camera in Tessa's bag, I sat down at my desk, turned on my computer, and began filling out the form for a temporary restraining order. I attached all the evidence: the audio recording from the kitchen, the clip of Tessa with the camera bag, the photo of the power of attorney Brandon had brought me, and the article from the Ledger. I didn't write much in the reasoning section, just one sentence. "They don't need me, but they won't leave me alone." 3 days later, the court approved it. I received the confirmation email on a Thursday morning. I read the message over and over as if it were a letter from a dear distant relative bringing unspoken words of comfort. I printed a copy and put it in an envelope. I sent it to the last address I had for Brandon and Tessa. No recipient name. Just a sticky note on the front. You wanted the law. Here it is. I didn't wait for them to reply. I didn't wait for them to come and make peace. I just wanted them to understand my silence now had legal weight, and it was no longer the concession of a mother. That afternoon, I received an email from Clearwater People magazine. They asked if I would be willing to do an interview about the story that had been shared in the Ledger last week. They said they wanted to delve deeper into the side of the mother who was pushed out that readers had sent in many letters. I considered it, not because I wanted to be famous. I've never seen myself as someone suited for the spotlight or the papers. But I thought if someone else in a situation like mine read it and found the courage to leave, then maybe it would be worth it. I agreed, and I made it clear I will not tell this story as a victim. I will only speak the truth as I know it. The interview took place in a seaside cafe where I often sat to write in my journal on Sunday mornings. The reporter was a young woman about 30 with short hair and glasses. She didn't ask many questions. She just let me tell my story. At times, she just sat there listening, not even taking notes. When the article was published a week later, I read every line as if it were a letter from myself. The very first paragraph was my quote in bold, "This isn't revenge, this is clarity." There were no words slandering Brandon or Tessa. It was just a journey. A mother helps her son buy a house, is treated like a stranger leaves, and now is moving on. I moved into my new apartment on a Monday morning. The sky was unusually clear and blue, as if someone up above had just wiped every cloud clean. It's a 2-bedroom apartment with simple wood floors and a window that looks out toward the ocean. It's in an independent living community for seniors, not too crowded, but not too quiet either. Just enough to hear a passing laugh in the morning and the gentle creak of a wheelchair in the hallway as evening falls. I chose this place thanks to a woman named Doreen, a housing council worker who had quietly helped me since the first days after I left Brandon's house. She didn't ask many questions, just patiently searched and took me to see one place after another until I stood in front of this apartment and felt my heart settle. This one gets the afternoon sun. "You'll like that," she'd said, turning to me with a smile in her eyes. "And there's an art class in the community room every Tuesday afternoon." I nodded. I didn't need to think twice. This was a place to live that didn't require anyone's permission or charity. I start every day with a cup of black coffee and a walk along the shore. No alarm clock needed. The light filtering through the curtains is enough to tell me morning has come. I put on my sneakers, a light jacket, and walk slowly along the stone path in the park nearby. Sometimes I see a few old men playing dominoes or a woman walking her dog. We nod to each other. No prying questions, no curiosity. It's as if we're just saying, "I see you, you see me." That's enough. In the afternoons, I go to the art class on the ground floor. It's a small class, about 8 of us. There's Mr. Walter, the old instructor with a full head of white hair and glasses that slide down his nose, his voice as deep as a cello. He doesn't just teach painting. He tells stories about his late wife, about the war, about the time he painted a nude model back in art school in New York. One day, as I was struggling with a landscape where the sea meets the sky, he stopped by, sat down next to me and watched me for a long moment before saying, "Evelyn, you paint like someone who's walked through a storm." I smiled. I didn't reply. But I knew what he meant. I had walked through a storm, not the kind with howling winds and lightning. It was the quiet kind of storm, the one that comes from people who were once your family. A storm that makes you pack your bags with trembling hands and leave without knowing where you'll go. That painting, I never finished it. I left the rough strokes, the sky a mottled gray-blue. It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be true to what I saw. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry in my room, the mail chime rang. I went downstairs. In my mailbox was a cream-colored envelope with no return address. The handwriting was familiar. Brandon. I brought it upstairs and sat in the chair by the window. Outside, the palm trees swayed and the sun cast long, silent streaks of light through their fronds. I opened the letter. "Mom, I don't expect a reply. I just want you to know you were right. About everything. Even the thing I thought was impossible." Beneath those words was another piece of paper, a copy of a DNA test result, No explanation, no tears. Just a number. Simple and cold. Brandon didn't need to write anything else. I understood. I had known already. But still, it hurt. Not because it confirmed what I'd heard, but because, for the first time, my son was forced to look at the truth without being able to turn away. No blame, no excuses, no long stories, just late. I folded the letter and put it in an old tin box where I keep things I don't use for blame but can't bring myself to throw away. That night I sat down to write in my journal. The desk lamp cast a soft glow. An old jazz tune played from a small speaker. I wrote, "Some things don't need to be shouted to be proven. You don't need to retaliate to be called strong. I won't reply to the letter. I won't go back. I choose silence not as surrender, but as clarity." They once said there was no room for me. In the end, I realized I don't need anyone to make room for me. I closed the journal, poured a little more tea. Outside, the waves still crashed on the shore without anyone's permission. If you've listened to my story this far, thank you. I never thought of myself as an interesting person or someone with a story worth telling. I was just a mother, a wife who lost her way when everything she believed in crumbled beneath her feet. But I'm telling this story not to blame anyone and not to make you sad. I'm telling it so you can see that sometimes silence is its own form of strength. I used to think love meant giving everything away. It meant staying quiet when you were hurt, enduring to keep the peace, swallowing your tears, because he's my son. But after all this, I've learned that being a mother doesn't mean you have to lose yourself. We women who have passed the halfway point of our lives are often taught how to sacrifice, but rarely taught how to love ourselves. We know how to cook a meal for the whole family, but we don't know how to make a cup of tea for ourselves. We know how to wipe away someone else's tears, but we hide our own because we're afraid of being a bother. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, who will protect you if you don't speak up for yourself? I left, not because I stopped loving my son, but because I chose to love myself first. I didn't retaliate. I didn't harm anyone. I just stopped enduring. I chose silence. Not out of weakness, but because I was too tired to scream for someone to understand me. And my friend, if you are somewhere in this life feeling invisible in the very home you helped build, please remember you are not invisible. You exist, and you deserve a place to live, not a place to be tolerated. I don't know who you are, where you live, or what your circumstances are, but I know this for us women, it is never too late to start over. Whether you're 40, 60, or 80, as long as you can wake up, breathe, and feel that ache in your heart, you still have a chance to live for yourself. I live a small life now, a very small one, but it's my own. I make tea when I want to. I paint what I want to. I smile when my heart feels light. I don't need to wait for anyone's permission. And if my story made you see a part of yourself in it, please let me know. Leave a few lines. I will read them. I want to hear your story because sometimes just knowing you're not the only one who feels this way is enough. Have you ever been in my shoes? Have you ever felt pushed out of your own family's life? Don't be afraid to leave a comment. Somewhere another woman might need to hear what you have to share. We don't need to be given a place. We deserve to find our own. Evelyn Carter.